There we go.
All right. Welcome to our third panel in honor of Women's History Month 2022. This year we adopted the theme Breaking the Bias, Philly Women at Work, to highlight the incredible work women are doing every day. There are so many ways we see women working in our district, and this includes so many parents and guardians who stay involved in trying to make their schools better for their children. So with our panel tonight, Moms and Beyond, Families at SDP, we will talk to a few of the wonderful women raising students in the district. My name is Michelle Gaynor, and I'm the project manager for the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And joining me today as a co-moderator is Teresa. Teresa, I apologize. I do not want to butcher your last name. Can you please?
Yes, Gapisi.
Gapisi. Yes. She is the school-based academic coach at K Kappa. In terms of logistics, we will give our panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves, and then I will turn the discussion over to Teresa to get to our questions. Our first panelist is Victoria Trower, mother of students at Amy and James Martin and a family engagement liaison. Could you tell us a little bit about your involvement in schools in Philadelphia?
Absolutely. So my job as a liaison, I have 10 different schools, and my job is really to be a connector or a bridge for parents when they have questions or concerns or need resources from the district and from the school itself. And I also am responsible for coming up with family engagement events and supporting SAC, school advisory councils, and home and school associations. So it's really all about being there for our families.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Our next panelist is Wallette Carter, grandparent and home and school member at Science Leadership Academy at Beaver. Could you tell us a little bit about your involvement in schools in Philadelphia?
I'm sorry, I had to unmute myself. I'm sorry, you can't see my face. I'm still having a problem with the video. But I have a grandson at the Science Leadership Academy. I am also part of FACE Action Group, and I am also a member of the PCAC, which is the Parent Community and Advisory Council, which is attached to the board. I'm a busy grandma, and I am enjoying it very, very much.
Fantastic.
Was there something else? I couldn't remember the whole question.
Oh, no, it was just if you could tell us a little bit about your involvement in schools.
Yeah, I right now it's just working within my son's school and working with the board and FACE, trying to get information out to all the parents that we can get them out to. Hopefully, as the weather gets nice now, I shall be able to visit some other schools besides the one that I actually work in more often. My grandson's school.
Awesome. Next up, we have Theresa Addison, grandparent, part-time climate staff, and volunteer at Tanner Duckery School. Could you tell us a little bit about your involvement in schools in Philadelphia?
Good evening, ladies. My participation, I work at Tanner Duckery School. I also have a 4th grade granddaughter who attends Duckery. They consider me as the mayor of Duckery because I do a lot at Duckery from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. Also, I'm a member of the SAC team with working closely with Miss Victoria Tower. Basically, I try to help as much as I can all around the school, parents, staff, and the community. I work hand in hand with the principal, the assistant principal, and all staff. I've been around for a long time, since 1989 until present day. And I enjoy what I do. I plan on hopefully retiring sometime next year, if the Lord is willing. But until now, I'm going headstrong.
Thanks. Awesome. We wish you luck in your retirement. And finally, we have Zoma Guzman, a mother of students at Thomas G. Morton School, School of the Future, and Middle Years Alternative Middle School, and community advocate. Could you tell us a little bit about your involvement in schools in Philadelphia?
Hola, buenas tardes. ¿Hay interpretación? Okay. Okay, sí, hola, buenas tardes. Sí, soy voluntaria de las escuelas. Primeramente porque somos familias inmigrantes y me motivó por el inglés, por el lenguaje, que era el español y el inglés no lo podíamos hablar. Gracias a los talleres que el distrito ofrecía, pude seguir ayudando en la escuela como voluntaria. A poder buscar una persona que hablara, una BCA, que hablara español e inglés para nuestras necesidades en las escuelas.
Bernard, unfortunately, we can't hear you.
Y poder apoyar tanto como a mis hijos y tanto como a la comunidad.
So I think I know what's going on because he's in the Spanish interpretation. He's not able, he has to switch back and forth. So he has to listen to her and translate and then switch over to English in order to speak to us so we can hear what he says.
Yeah, I could hear you the whole time. I'm not sure. So. Yes, I could hear you the whole time. Yeah. Michelle, can you hear him or is it just me?
No, I can't hear him at all.
Super weird. So I don't know. Bernard, I can hear you, but nobody else seems to be able to. Might you be able to remove your headpiece? Sometimes that interferes with the audio connection. No, now I cannot hear you. That's interesting. Yes, I can.
Sí, yo le escucho. No.
All right, so Bernard, do you want to just, could you drop the English in the chat? Maybe we'll do it that way since, I mean, you can say, yeah, I mean, maybe that's the way that we can do it if you don't mind doing it that way. If you don't mind, is that possible? All right.
No, pues esa es la primera respuesta de la primera pregunta, porque sé que hay más preguntas. Le doy el espacio al siguiente.
Or Bernard, you can speak and then I can speak. I don't know. I can hear you. I don't know why. I'm not. Can everybody hear me? Yes? All right, go ahead, Bernard. You go, I go. Go ahead.
No, esta es la respuesta de la primera. Que siga con la siguiente persona.
So Zoma basically said, just a kind of little synopsis of what she said. She volunteered at the school. She's able to continue to volunteer at the school as a result of the district offering opportunities for translation. And I think she also works with the BAC, which is the translation services used for the school. And she is working in multiple schools because she has more than one child within our school system at middle school, high school, and elementary, it sounded like. Bernard, is that a good summary there? All right, great. Okay. So Michelle, that's how we'll do this for moving forward.
Thank you so much for that and for all of your work. And
she's ready for. All right, we're about to move on to the question piece, I believe, right, Michelle? We're moving into the discussion. Okay, yeah. Go ahead. All right, so I'm going to take over at this point. I'm going to facilitate the discussion. So my name is Teresa Gapisi. I am a school-based academic coach. I work for the Office of Teaching and Learning. I am also a parent. I had a whole full-grown son go through the School District of Philadelphia, so I also played that role. And I am going to facilitate the question. So the way that we will do this today, I will ask a question, and then if you want to respond, you can either raise your hand, and then I'll call on you individually, or if we are kind of hitting alone, getting quiet, or I need to kind of cut time, I will just kind of indicate how many people can share out on each question. Is everybody good with that? Just give me a thumbs up. All right. Okay, so let's get rolling. So how did you become involved in your student's school? All right, so Teresa, I saw your hand go up, so.
How I got started in working in a school, I have two children who attended the Philadelphia public school system. I have a 37-year-old and a 25-year-old. So I started when my 37-year-old was in kindergarten. And I participated in going on trips and helping out, doing the desk and things like that, working in the office, doing the late door and things like that. And I ended up being in a kindergarten classroom with the teacher. Unfortunately, she passed, but I was in there with her for like 7 or 8 years before she passed. So I went from there, having another child, my 25-year-old. I left out to have her, came back to the same school which I attended as a student, which was M. Hall Stanton Elementary at 16th and Cumberland. I ended up going back and being there, ended up working there, and until the school shut down in 2012. And then I left from there to go to Tanner Duckery, and I've been there ever since with the intention on leaving next year if I'm permitted.
Thank you, Teresa, for getting us started. And then Victoria, would you like to go next?
Sure. So I started at my children's school. They went to Sullivan Elementary, and at first they were at Finleather, but we had moved, and so the commute was just a lot. And in the process, I had been laid off from work. So I had all this free time. They were in kindergarten and first grade, and I said, I have to do what my parents did, which was volunteer. My parents volunteered for everything when I was growing up, and it almost felt like it was their second job. So I knew that I wanted to be a presence in my children's lives. I thought that that was really important, that they know that I was supporting them. And while I might not have been a helicopter parent, they knew that I was around. And that eventually, much like Miss Addison, they were like, well, you're here so much from 7 to 7, you might as well just work for us. And so I did. I started out working as a climate support officer at the school for about a couple of years. And in 2019, I was offered a position at 440. But in the meantime, I stayed in my students' academic, life at Sullivan. I got our SAC together. We had a very successful award-winning SAC. We had a lot of fundraising opportunities. We did carnivals. We did multicultural day events. And it was just really beautiful to be able to engage with the parents and bring other parents in to volunteer as well.
Great, thank you, Victoria. And anybody else like to share on this question?
I will. Hi, this is Molly. I'm actually on on another screen now, so you actually see my face. Hi. Okay. But the funny thing is, my daughter has a son, which got me. You know what? Let me turn off this up.
Yeah, you have to. You just have to mute your other screen so you don't get that funky little echo. So if you want to mute the screen, the second screen, you won't get a funny echo right now.
I just got it. I just cut it off and came to the phone. Okay. What happened was my daughter had a son, and I had always been involved in my children. We unfortunately have had to move around due to my husband's position with the FAA. So whatever school my children were in, and they are at ages 48 and 46, I was involved in. And her being a single parent, I felt that, I had to be there for her too, to help her along with her son. So that's how I got into it. We started with him in charter school from kindergarten to 5th grade, and then we came over to SLA at 5th grade, and I have been there for 4 years and enjoying it. Just keeps me busy.
Great, thank you so much. Do we have anybody else who would like to share before we move on to the next question? Okay, so I want you all to try something. So Zoma is about to share. You should see a button on the bottom of your screen that says English. Does everybody see that button? Okay, click that button and then click Spanish. And then we should all be able to hear Bernard. Let's see if this works. Okay, ready? And okay, Bernard, Bernard, can you talk? Can everybody hear him now? Yes, figured it out. Fantastic, great. Yes, we're good. So that we just had to click the button. I learned something. All right, perfect. Go ahead. She can share whenever she's ready.
Sí, igual a mí mis hijos me motivaron a seguir como voluntariado en las escuelas y en buscando recursos que mis hijos necesitaban y también poder ayudar a otras comunidades. Y gracias a Dios, la directora de la escuela, ya Catherine, anteriormente que mis hijos tenían elemental, pues ella me apoyó mucho también abriendo clases para inglés para padres que no hablaban inglés. Buscaron una persona que hablara español e inglés para hacer talleres cada mes. Gracias a eso, esa ha sido una motivación, mis hijos, para poder seguir voluntariando en las escuelas hasta el día de ahora.
Okay, so thank you so much, Zoma, for sharing out. All right, so now everybody, you're gonna click that Spanish button and turn it to English so you're not hearing Bernard translate while we are going to the next question. All right, so everybody switch back to English. You should hear me. Bernard's able to translate in the interim. And then when Zoma answers, I'm just going to ask you to switch back to the Spanish button so that we can all hear each other. Is everybody good with that? All right, okay, cool. Okay, so what is something you wish your student's school knew about what life is like for your family? And I'm gonna also start dropping these questions in the chat so we can have them there as a reference. All right, so what is something you wish your student's school knew about what life was like for your family? All right, so Victoria, go ahead, get us started here.
Yeah, I wish that my children's school understood just how rough it is for parents who are working to still get their middle schoolers out to school on time. I think a lot of people just think K-5 is that spot where you have to be accommodating for parents, but and it's not that Amy isn't, it's just how it is when your students are in middle school. But because of the nature of the city and the crime, a lot of us parents who have to be to work, especially if you work for the district, at 7:30, sometimes 6:45 in the morning, and you have to put those babies on a bus and pray that they get there in one piece. And so it's really hard. It's really hard.
All right, thank you, Victoria. Does anybody else want to share out about what's something you wish people knew about what life is like for your family at home? And again, that morning, happening things in the morning, getting myself and my child out of the house is one of the most difficult things ever. So I can empathize with that, Victoria. So thank you for uplifting that. All right, anybody else want to share out on that question? Okay, Ms. Nunez, would you like to share out?
Yes, I want to share that that we are working parents, because some people assume that some people doesn't work, stereotype people, and then that's what I want to know, to let them know that we are working parents, and a little bit about culture, about my cultures, or different cultures that they had in Philadelphia. Now that they had a lot of people who they move over here, like Puerto Rico, Dominican, Guatemala and things like that. A little bit of our culture. I would like that to see more.
All right, and that's a really important point. So we have a lot of different cultures and communities within our school networks, and really just being conscious of bringing that diversity into the classroom with lessons and everything else. All right, I see a hand, and it says Beaver Home and School. Could you just remind me what your name is? And come off of mute for me if you don't mind. Oh, one more time.
There you go. Okay. I think it's also very difficult. We did a survey on this, that the school needs to realize that with a lot of these new professional development days that have been added on to the system, that there is more for, especially not only kindergarten through 5th or 6th grade or what have you, but also for the upper school, that the notice needs to go out about this like now. I think it needs to be known because parents that are working have to now reroute their calendar to keep their children. And also the school system needs to know that they need to put more programs in place to cover those days. Because I know I'm lucky, but not every parent is, because I'm not a working parent and I can pick up my grandson. But if he was just with his mother, she wouldn't be able to. Okay. And those that do have those systems in place in the school, the after school programs, we're finding out that most of those after school programs also close down on those days that are PD. So that's no help at all. Also think about the fact that the older siblings have to get to them because brothers and sisters. So I think that's something that needs to definitely be stressed more about parents that are out there working in the working community today.
All right, thank you, Ms. Walla. And hopefully maybe the adjusted start time will help with those older siblings, getting those younger siblings to school, crossing our fingers. If that's something that goes through, maybe that's something that might help, crossing our fingers. And thank you for uplifting the things about working moms or working parents, and especially about those PD days, because again, there's not a lot of accommodation. So thank you so much for uplifting that for us. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next question. What advice do you have for parents or guardians who would like to be more involved in the student's school? So what are some words of wisdom or advice you have for parents who would like to be more actively involved, whether you're parents who work or parents who are non-working and are able to volunteer? So what's some words of advice? Miss Addison, you're being called here. So what are some words of advice, Miss Teresa?
Some words of advice from me would be a lot of parents who work like my daughter does, and I assist her as much as I can with my granddaughter going to the school. So I'm there when she gets there, and I bring her home after the after school program that she attends. And volunteering in the schools, it would be nice, but society and work, parents need to work, grandparents need to work, and if you're well enough to be able to come out, they got stipulations now, something that they didn't have back in the past, because there's been so much going on with, you have to have a criminal background check and the child abuse. A lot of people don't know anything about that, especially our elderly ones that's up in age that would love to participate in the school. I find out that they can't do that because of that stipulation. A lot of them may have been offenders at some point in their life, but they turned their life around, but it still enables them not to be able to participate, which a lot of the principals and other administrators would love to have them in there, because that would be a beautiful addition to the staffing, which would help out in any areas. But that seems to be a concern and a cautionary part of them being able to do it as it was back in the day. And also they used to have a program which I used to participate in, which was the Parent Scholar, whereas you did 70 hours a week in the school and you got paid a stipend, which didn't interfere with any other income that you would get, you know, because you're only working so many hours a week, you know, and participating and doing whatever the school and in what area the school would need you in. So that's something I know that they cut out a couple of years back. So if they could implement that back in schools as well to help out.
All right, and I'm not aware of that program, but that's definitely, again, thank you for uplifting that, and maybe something for us to consider as we're moving forward. Anybody else? Would you just kind of words of wisdom for how to be more actively involved in your child's school? Go ahead, Ms. Wallette. Is that how you say your name? I want to make sure I'm saying it correctly.
Yes, yes, that's how you pronounce it. The other thing is trying to make parents realize that unfortunately, sometimes it's not always being in the school, okay? When you come to your SACs and your home and school association, it could be a parent that likes keeping record of what goes on in those organizations. It's a parent that doesn't mind spending an hour a month organizing the parent list or keeping it up to date. So I think you need to reach out to parents and let them know it's not a, you know, a hard job. If you can't make it one time, maybe you can do it the next time. I think they figure if they can't do it on a full-time site basis, that they don't want to do it at all. I find that's a problem with our parents to get them out. So now what I've done in our school is I ask them for an hour to 2 hours, you know, every other month. If you can give me that to help me keep a book or make a flyer for me or just, you know, some little thing to keep them involved so that they don't feel as though, oh, well, she'll do it. And I politely tell them, no, I'm not doing it. I don't have time. I have other things to do, but you got an hour a day, an hour a month to give me to make me up flyers for these events coming up. So it's just ideas that you have to start floating around with the parents and catching them. Oh, catch them when they're picking up their kids. Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Pick up, not drop off. For sure, not drop off because we all got somewhere to be. So
Right.
pick up is the best place to catch your parents.
Yeah,
For
but
sure.
pick up their, yeah, grab a hold of them.
And again, that's really good advice. So thinking about like, even like if we only have an hour or 2 hours a month,
Right.
how can we pull in a parent engagement, or how can we figure out what skills parents could or have on the side that they could be doing from home and still be involved in the community? Because again, engagement does look different. So Victoria, I just saw you drop that in the chat. So just thinking through maybe different ways schools could figure out what people are good at so they can be involved from the background. Thank you so much for uplifting that.
Surveys are very good for that.
Yes.
We send out a survey, you know, about twice a year for that.
I love a good survey. And they can use the QR code on their way out the door from their cell phone. So there's a good way to get some active engagement. All right. So anybody else want to words of advice? Zoma is going to go. So when Zoma goes again, we are just switching to that Spanish button so we can hear the response. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Zulma no se escucha, Zulma.
Ay, perdón, en el audio lo tenía. Sí, es muy importante, de verdad, estar involucrado en la escuela, porque uno como padre puede ver las necesidades que los niños necesitan. Sería importante también que las consejeras puedan brindar ese tipo de humildad y plática con mutua para los padres también. Poder preparar ese tipo de flyer con anterioridad cuando va a haber los reportes de notas para que los padres puedan poder una cita con intérpretes también, ya sean en español o en otro idioma. Y eso puede abrir unas puertas para que los padres puedan asistir más y tener conversaciones con los maestros y con los empleados del distrito, de las escuelas, tanto como la directora, consejeros, el portero. Y aparte es una motivación porque los niños se fijan que si los padres estamos involucrados para ver si les interesa la educación de ellos también. Sí, sabemos que algunos pues son nuevos en este país y no entienden el sistema de la escuela. Entonces, pienso que el distrito, la escuela tiene el cargo de poder de enseñarles a los padres y darle la bienvenida y ver de qué manera, qué recursos se les puede brindar para que ellos puedan participar en las escuelas. Gracias.
Thank you. And then again, just hit that Spanish button and turn it back to English. All righty. So we are going to move on to our next question. And again, at any point, if you guys want to contribute, you are invited to do so at any time. Even if you don't want to speak aloud, you can drop your ideas into the chat as we go forward. So what have been some of the most rewarding moments for you as a guardian? So what are those rewards? What's bringing you joy as you're working with the schools and the children in our district? Victoria, did you want to start us off?
Sorry, I didn't realize that my hand was still up, but sure. I think for me, watching my children progress throughout the years, being there for all of those moments from the first time they made honor roll to, well, they didn't get to walk across the aisle because they were in pandemic at that point, but just knowing that me being there helped them get to where they were because of my constant presence, building relationships with the staff, building relationships with other parents. It truly warmed my heart to know that if I did have to leave my kids, that they were protected and that there were people in the community looking out for them. And so it was an investment. And even though it was really sometimes an exhausting one, and sometimes it was one that didn't require, pay for me, what paid off was just knowing that I gave them the best experience I possibly could in a neighborhood school that isn't necessarily the best of the best, but I felt that they got what they needed out of it. And that was because I pushed hard and advocated as a parent, as a volunteer, being engaged, and just seeing them get their little certificate of move up day. Took a lot to get there, but we did it. So, yeah.
Thank you, Victoria. Miss Lauren or Miss Teresa or Miss Nunez, would you like to share about this question? Go ahead, Miss Teresa, you want to get us started?
Yes, it gives me joy to see a lot of the kids that have that I worked with years ago. They're bringing in their children, to see them mature and grow up as little kids, and now they are young adults. And family after family after family, is so many of them. I now say, oh, it's time to leave because the next generation after their children, then other children are coming at the little ones having children now. But it's a joy to see that and participate in their upbringing. And they come back and they see you and they be like, you're still here? Yeah, where am I going? But I'll be going soon. Like, oh, well, no, because we want to bring our kids back to experience, have you work with them like you worked with us. Like it feels good to hear that and see that. And it's a blessing to know that I've been around that long that I can see generational, progressing and growing. It's a beautiful experience, I would say.
And thank you for your commitment to our children.
I just wanted to second that because I work at Duckery. I'll actually be at Duckery tomorrow, and everything Miss Addison says is true. And I'm not, a guardian there. I don't have children there, but it really is such a warm place. It's a family environment. Everybody knows everybody. And I did grow up in that area, so I had to chime in and say that.
And more than likely that's attributed to people like Miss Teresa in that building who have stuck by that school, stuck by that community, and have continued to make it feel that way. And school doesn't get that way by accident. So again, thank you so much for your commitment to our schools. Miss Nunez or Miss Rowland, would you like to share before we move on?
I want to share about my older son. He's in CCP and he's almost finished. Yeah, and he's only 19 years old. And then I'm glad about the public system, that they good education. Not everything is bad. Everything, they had a bright light in the end, we can say. But thank you for had those kind of conversation. We need that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Nunez. Okay, so we are going to move on to our final question of the evening. Last question of the day. So what advice would you give to teachers and schools for how to best interact and engage with families? So that's for the teachers and the schools. So what would you want them to know about how to best interact with you and your families?
I'm going to jump in. I'm just going to say the first thing is communication. As a parent, it really helps me that my children's teachers give me their cell phone numbers. They text me all the time and let me know what's going on with my students on a daily basis. And they don't have to do that. And I'm pretty sure they do that for the majority of their students. They're open. Communication is really important because sometimes we might not get to go to a meeting for a parent meeting, but we know that the teachers, they're interacting with our students on a daily basis. So the information that we need really needs to come from them first and foremost, because they have that relationship with the students. And I think the best way to engage families school-wide is to stand by what you say. If you say that your school is welcoming to parents and it's open, you can't say that and then do everything that contradicts that by being unwelcoming, not allowing parents to even make an appointment to come in to the school and speak with administration or speak with the teacher. That can really turn people off and make them feel like they're not wanted. So being open, letting people know that school advisory councils and home and schools are encouraged and that the principals and the teachers support these parent-led organizations, because when parents see that there's a strong parental voice in the school, that's already a sign to them that they're welcome, that they're needed, their help is needed, their voices are needed, and that they're going to be that people want them to be a contributing factor to the success of a school. So it really, to me, starts with the communication piece with teachers and just making sure that your parent voices and that your parent organizations are top notch.
All right, thank you for that. So I'm hearing consistency, communication, and following through on what you're saying and having access to the teachers. All right, Miss Wallette, would you like to go next?
I totally agree on what she spoke on. The only thing is I find that now when the teachers, when we came back from the pandemic, I think there was a lot of apprehension from the principals and the teachers in the schools of letting people in, okay, because of what was going on with the pandemic. Well, we have now reached that point where we are hoping that we are at a place where we can be more open and more welcoming. And I think that needs to be expressed more, maybe from the board, that now we're out of the pandemic and you guys need to open back up the doors again a little bit more. Don't be afraid of the parents coming in. I was speaking with a parent the other day at one of the supervisors' town halls, and she was saying that her school didn't necessarily want parents in there. And she put it to the fact of the pandemic. So I think we need to let the school board know that now that they're opened up again, let's make it known that if the principals send out a note or a letter or something saying, okay, we're through the pandemic, please feel free to come in our school, see what's going on, see how things have changed or haven't changed or improved or unimproved, and let us know what's going on with you guys now that with us, if that makes any sense to you.
It does. So COVID closed down the world, and that includes accessibility to parents into school. So definitely some takeaways there. Like, well, we can begin the process of opening the doors and re-engaging our parents. So thank you for uplifting that. And Ms. Nunez, I saw you drop something in the chat. Did you want to share that out aloud about asking questions and partnerships? Okay, does anybody have any final thoughts on this particular question or anything else that they would like to share out? Ms. Zoma, and again, so as Ms. Zoma speaks, we're going to switch and click that Spanish button so that we can hear the interpreter. And when you're ready.
Sí, en la pandemia sí, yo sé que sí fue muy difícil para tener una comunicación, pero aún así, gracias a los maestros de mis hijos de las 3 escuelas, estuvieron pendientes con el número de teléfono, mandando mensajes. A veces teníamos problemas con la comunicación o por las conexiones del Google Meet. Entonces lo que hacíamos éramos que mandaban también las tareas por fotos a mensajes formales, y también me aceptaban las fotos cuando no se podían usar, había problemas en el sistema. Mandábamos después las tareas completas por teléfono, y eso, y en ClassDojo, que es otra aplicación que se ha abierto. Esas aplicaciones también nos dan también un aporte también, que como padres podemos participar también, pero sí, como han dicho los demás, que sería bueno pues entrar a las escuelas ya para empezar a trabajar con la escuela y con los niños.
Thank you, Zoma. All right. And then just switch back to the English button. Righty. Okay, so we are, if anybody has any final thoughts before we kind of do our wrap up, I invite you to share now. Ms. Swalette, you got final words of wisdom for us, or Miss Teresa?
Well, the only thing that I can possibly, oh, wait a minute. I just lost me again.
It's all right. We can hear you. You're fine. You're doing good.
Okay. All I can say is, as a parent, I would tell every parent that you believe your child is number one. You pray that your child is number one, and not only in your heart, but in the heart of your schools and your teachers, that they, take them as individuals, that they love on them as you would love on them, but not smother them like you smother them. Don't be a hovering teacher, but give them guidance where they need it, but also give them consequences for their errors and their mistakes that fit what happened. Sometimes I have seen, and not necessarily with my children, but with working in the school, that I have seen consequences that I didn't feel were necessary for that child. So I think each child needs to be individually evaluated for anything that goes on in the school. But mainly love on them, communicate with their parents, and accept their skills, but teach them to increase it. I know we at Dallas's school, we're on a innovation type school, so it's a different basis than most schools. But I do like the way that they work with the children. They make them think for themselves too. And I think more schools need to start making them think for themselves more so than give them, this is it, this is the rule, this is what's happening. Because we as parents do enough of that. Clean up your room, do the dishes, and no questions asked. So I would like to see more schools let them ask the questions and learn.
And I just wanted to say really quickly, because we're all, wow, I'm sorry, Bernard, but most of us are women here. And of course, we're mothers. And even for those who aren't, I think it's really important that the district acknowledge that, we as working moms, we are trying to really do it all. And if we can't make it to a meeting, if we can't make it to a parent conference, it doesn't mean that we don't care, that we don't love our children. I would love to show up to every, event or participate in every event that my middle schoolers have, but I am a servant of the district. So that means that I also have to treat my families and the parents whom I serve also like my children as well, which means there are times that I cannot make it. It doesn't mean that I don't care. It doesn't mean that I don't want to be involved. I'm still a fairly young mother, and I'm trying to navigate that balance and figure out how to do both really successfully, and just give us all grace, because women do rule the world, but we're also human beings, and we need support, we need understanding, and we need encouragement, not just from one another as women, but from everyone. So that's all I wanted to say. And I'm so grateful to be here with such amazing moms and women, and you too, Bernard.
And the other thing I want to say is that they need to decide that they need to make it a little bit more convenient. All these afternoon hours for conferences when parents are working is not getting over. You're not letting parents become involved, because you're not
accessibility here, making sure they get accessible for all. And again, Final thoughts. That's a good thing to end on, I think, Victoria. And I'm going to interject. Teacher moms can never actually then attend their own children's
Right.
girls most of the time. So I would agree with all of these things. I'm going to pass it back to Michelle, who is going to wrap us up for the evening. Miss Teresa, I'm sorry you didn't have a chance to share out your final thought. And again, I just want to personally thank you all for your participation. And Michelle, over to you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our panelists for taking the time to share your stories and insight. It's so inspiring to hear so many of the women who take active roles in Philadelphia schools and communities. I would also like to thank Teresa Gapisi for moderating this panel discussion. You can follow K-Kappa High School on Instagram. And of course, I would like to thank everybody who came to this event tonight and everybody who watches this later on the DEI Office YouTube channel. You can also view it on the district's Women's History Month page at philasd.org/Women's History Month. Yes, and a huge thank you to our interpreters who are here with us.
Yes.
Thank you so much for providing accessibility for all of our parents, whether they're over the screen or in the room tonight. We appreciate you for sure.
No, we appreciate you and we thank you for having us.
If you would like to register for our final Women's History Month event on Thursday, you can use this Google form that I dropped in the chat.
Okay.
Our last panel is a family panel, local resources for working women. If you're interested in resources for working and economic empowerment, be sure to attend. To stay up to date with the DEI office, you can also sign up for updates at this link here. And as we close, I'd like to give our panelists any final words. Finish the STEM with one word. Being a caretaker at the School District of Philadelphia means being what?
Committed.
An advocate.
I was going to say advocate. Being appreciated.
Empowered.
Empowered.
Having a collaborative spirit.
Loving on all those babies, even if they're not yours, taking care of all of them.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Definitely. But also having fun with it.
A second emotion.
Finding the joy. What a perfect way to end. Finding the joy.
Right. Finding the joy. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.
Okay.